Black Metal Hills from Finland, Sargeist is back, now with the third era being in the game here. This is Flame Within the Flame, an album that came out in 2025, a few weeks before this video got to be done. And this is pretty interesting because for a while it was thought Sargeist was gone, or at least taking a little bit of a creative break, which indeed happened. This is something I went through in my Finnish black metal series from the 90s when I was going through the lineup, and obviously things have changed a little bit since I made that video, because now there is this new album, and of course you can see this new lineup here in the photo as well. So Rauta, the main man, the one who created the band, always been the kind of a cornerstone of the band. Then you have this guy here from other bands as well, like Adestuo, and he has been part of the band for quite some times. But the rest of the lineup has changed. Now we have Spellgod from Horna taking care of bass roles here, and as I was told, backing vocals as well. And then we have this new drummer, who I also got to meet, very nice guy, at Steelfest, and now he's taking care of the drums. You can see the more details in the metal archives and whatever, but Rauta is also taking care of the vocals, so things have changed in the past. Let's take a look at this booklet quickly before we venture into the world of music with Sargeist, and of course talk about even further of these eras or phases as I was talking to you about. So as you can see, pretty basic, a classic black and white design by World Terror Committee, or probably Spellgod had his fingers, being a visual artist and all, creating this one. Either way, it's very traditional, no bullshit, no gimmicks, no weird photography, unless you consider band photography that, but that's a different question. So, enter the world in 1999. Horna had already been there for quite a few years, and of course, Rauta, was probably quite busy back in the days, not busy as these days. I mean, back in the days, Horna was quite a bit a smaller band. But however, Rauta has always had quite a few bands, which you have here listed on Metal Archives as well. And Sargeist is probably the most known band, apart from Horna, of all his projects. I mean, he has bands like Dödsvangar or Strigoi and so forth. And there are some quality albums, some of even better than these bigger bands, but we're not going to talk about them. However, he didn't do this band for a long time by himself, so enter 2000s and suddenly you have some new members, and 2001, 2002, expanding the band, especially the so-called first wave. I am not counting these very early steps because it was a demo band as the first phase, but this one where Horns and Hoth Thorok from Beheksen joined the band, and they had quite a long career, 14 years give or take in the band, and that is the so-called classic Beheksen era. So we're talking about Satanic Black Devotion and even some stuff before that until around here, Feeding the Crawling Shadows in 2014. So these essential early albums, 4 albums, by this given lineup, more or less. Now, then things changed. Suddenly the duo from Beheksen was out of the band, and you had new people entering the game. For example, Vaina joined 2009 and left 2016, and with the other guys as well. And then there is like Abysmal and Growth and Profundus, who are here, as you can see, 2016 to 2023. So suddenly 3 guys entered the game, and they're from various bands like, Desolate Shrine and Lying Ruins. Guy did the drums, and Profundus, who is known for other artist names, of course. Also from some of these bands, also took part of various bands like Sacrilegious Impalement and one version of The Crescent and so forth, Earn even. And, that was the so-called second era, and that's what they created, Unbound and Death Veneration. Same session, but different releases around 2018, 2019. So active era, and of course lives. But something dramatic happened in the band, and suddenly 3 guys out of 5 were out of the band. And here we have then the updated lineup with the newer members like Spellgod, like I mentioned, taking bass and backing vocals 2024, and this drummer Nur Isiah from 2024 as well. So when I mentioned this Adestuo guy, who also plays in various bands like Demons and whatever, Nightbringer, VJS, who I got to meet also back in the days, it's a little bit different lineup, but it's always come back to Rauta being the main guy. So, I mean, basically you could be a little bit cynical and say you can change the rest and everybody else is replaceable except Shatro. But it's been 7 years since Unbound, so if you compare to the early years when there were albums every few years, longest gap being this 5 years between the second and third album, now it's been 7 years. And of course with different lineup you start asking questions. Is it going to be the same because of the lineup has changed? And if it's going to be worse or better because of these lineup changes, because people getting older and all that stuff. Now, for me, Sargeist has always been a quality band. There are no like hiccups. The band has never low points, feeling like what the fuck they're doing, how they change their style. And on the other hand, it has never been like, okay, this is the highlight album and the rest are paling in comparison. It's a very consistent band, even more so than Horna, which definitely has its ups and downs. Some are better than Sargeist, some are worse. I'm not saying they're bad, but I overall consider Sargeist a little bit better band, more consistent in terms of quality and that when it comes to being, Finnish black metal. Now, Flame Within Flame is a very traditional black metal album from Finland in the sense that it really sounds like very Finnish. It's not the rawest out there, obviously. It has always had this similar thing going on as with Horna. You can clearly hear Shatrauk has his fingers in the game, and like I said, it's not really raw. But then again, if you compare it to, say, some bigger black metal artists and those who have, say, more commercial sound, yeah, it sounds somewhat rough. So if you would compare this to, say, bands like, Dimmu Borgir or Behemoth, Cradle of Filth or whatever, yeah, you could say it's a rough one, even some to degree raw. But I mean, there are bands which are really raw black metal, and Sargeist isn't exactly one of them. So it's more like, hey, let's take this middle path, which is a kind of a combination of raw elements with the somewhat better and more powerful production, which then again fits Sargeist music very well. It's more on the up-tempo thing, but it's not really the kind of a Marduk, let's go fast blasting all the way through. It's more about creating somewhat melodic riffs and maintaining the second wave black metal thing going on, much like Sargeist always have been. There are differences, for example, between Horna and Sargeist or Sargeist with Beheksen, but there are also similarities like overlapping elements, which then again, in my opinion, fall into the same box roughly. So if you like one of the bands, you're most likely gonna like the other ones as well. So what does this do for the Sargeist fans? They're probably gonna like it a lot. I mean, if you are a fan of the previous works, or most of them anyway, this Flame Within Flame is pretty much of a safe bet. Does it really renew or reinvent anything? Not so much in my opinion, and I think it kind of showcases very well how Shatrauk is so skilled, whatever he does, and he understands what kind of stuff you can put into a Sargeist album and what is not supposed to be there. So all the way through, 40 minutes, 9 tracks. The songs are not, overly lengthy, which is good. You don't want to go with 8 minutes with a Sargeist song. So more like this 4 or 5 minute thing, and that's what all you need. It is about darkness, it's about Satan, it's about traditional second wave black metal, and that should be enough, especially when you have these good songs to go with. So my recommendation to Flame Within Flame, so far one of the best albums of the year 2025. I don't think it's a game changer, it's game breaking, it's a revolutionary album by no means, but it's a good and solid one, and that should do the trick. Now, off you go, check out the music if you haven't so far, links are included in the description box. Do what you will, stay metal.